Look, guys, I'm a liberal. This is how liberals go through life. See, you can only hear your thoughts. Anybody outside of your own thoughts, you just can't hear them. I put these on in the morning and I walk straight down the street. And anyone I run into who I don't agree with, I don't like, I just put these on. You can't hear anything they say. All you see is this. And that's it. You don't have to hear anything that you don't like, that you don't agree with. You don't have to have any ideas pushed on you that might conflict with your own fragile worldview. Uh, which, by the way, how strong and how deep must your worldview be that even a simple idea from a passerby might crumble it? But yeah, you put these things on, you don't have to be challenged in any way. You'll never grow, but that's okay because you're already you, the best you that can ever be. You'll never have a single solitary thought outside of your own, but that's okay because your thoughts are yours, and that by that measure they are perfect. You are the best you that can possibly be. Why grow? Why actually better yourself? It's a waste of time. You're perfect just the way you are. There is no reason to grow. There is no reason to better yourself. How you were born is exactly how you should be. So wear the earmuffs. Anybody who's gone before you, anybody who's studied history or theology or philosophy, they don't know what they're talking about. They're idiots. They're fools. Only thing that matters is your opinion. And if anybody challenges that, you have the right to tell them, I don't want to hear what you have to say because I am me. I am the best me that will ever be me. I am the best thing that's ever been, that has ever graced this earth because me is me, and what's better than that? So if I was born with, say, a deficiency in a certain area, or if I had an inclination like pedophilia or something like that, why change it? Why better yourself? Why challenge your flaws or your weaknesses? Why would anything like the gospel be important? If you're a sinner, no, I was born this way, so how could it be a sin? God made me the way I am. Why improve? These things, they're the best things you could ever run into. But I feel like we've certainly arrived at a point in this world where we might as well be wearing these. If anyone's been paying attention to the news lately, Milo Yiannopoulos, Laura Loomer, Steven Anderson, Paul Joseph Watson, and others have been now banned permanently from Facebook and Instagram. This was not a surprise. In fact, I was wondering how long it would take, not in a good way. Now, if you watch MSNBC or CNN or any of those socialistic, totalitarian, fascist idiots that are on those supposedly objective cable news networks, many of them right now are saying the very same thing. What took so long? But not in a good way. They didn't see this coming and think, oh, we've got to fight against it. It is shocking and amazing and disheartening to know how many people are actually cheering the death of free speech in this country. I don't agree with a word that Louis Farrakhan says. The man believes that Jews are the same thing as termites. He said, I'm not anti-Semite, I'm anti-termite. The guy is despicable, and yet I would always say that he has the right to say these despicable things. And he should have that right. The only way that bad ideas can be challenged and defeated in our culture is by being brought out into daylight and having that dialogue, that debate that must necessarily take place between good ideas and bad ideas, that inevitably results in a free society. Now, if you have a totalitarian society, which is what we are rapidly moving into and which is being cheered on by these morons at CNN and MSNBC and the New York Times and the Washington Post, these are people that really truly live like this, who think that living in an echo chamber is the best way to go. You get Joy Behar, those type of cretins that think that these odious people that think that not having your ideas challenged makes you a better person, that not growing, not listening to opposing viewpoints is the best way to make your way through the world. How are you to grow? How are you to better yourself? How are you to challenge yourself? How do you better yourself without challenging yourself if you do not put up or shut up, Put up your ideas for scrutiny. What are you afraid of, Joy Behar? What are you people afraid of, Brian Stelter, or whatever your name is, or Joe Scarborough, or Rachel Mancow, or any of these people? What do they fear so much that they cannot have an open dialogue and debate in society? And here we go again. Milo Yiannopoulos, the man who is really a danger to nobody except himself as far as his own career is concerned, is banned yet again from another platform for absolutely no reason whatsoever. If you want to justify the man's opinion of himself as dangerous, then by all means ban him from every platform. This is what you get. You're creating victimhood. You are creating a martyrdom syndrome amongst the right. I'm on the right, I'm conservative, and yet I can fully attest to this fact that this banning is creating this martyrdom syndrome within the which it always shocks me when totalitarian governments and fascist regimes, instead of just ignoring somebody, instead of just saying we're not going to even engage with them, they ban them, they burn their stuff, they kick them off the platforms, they don't allow them in the public square. All this does is make their followers and themselves more entrenched in their ideas. You're actually undermining what you're trying to accomplish. Milo Yiannopoulos is not going anywhere. He may not be on Twitter, but the man is not going anywhere, and his fans are now even more dedicated than they were before. So you just defeated your own end game here. The same goes for Laura Loomer. The same goes for Paul Joseph Watson. Okay? Now, real quickly, this whole idea about whether a platform should be allowed to ban whoever they want to because they're private companies, I used to actually be on that side of the argument, to my great shame, to an extent. I think there's some merit to it, but we have rapidly approached a point where big tech, Google, Facebook, Twitter, all these companies, these couple companies have a monopoly on the conversation going on in the country. So one of two things need to happen right now. They either need to be broken up by the government, which is something that I'm usually against, but in this case, there's too much power there. Google is more powerful than the American government. It needs to be broken up. This is a monopoly that needs to be broken up. The same goes for Facebook or Twitter, and Facebook also owns Instagram. So these people have a monopoly on your speech on a public forum. Okay, and what allows them to get away with it is that they claim to be non-biased. Well, I think the proof is there that they are exceedingly biased, and so they should be either labeled as publishers, and then they're liable for everything anyone says on their site, which is why they don't want that. But they're walking a thin line here. They're trying to say we're not biased, yet we're not publishers. No, you are biased, therefore you are publishers, okay? And this puts you in a very bad position. I understand that, but either stick to what you're saying, that all speech should be allowed on your platform, except that directly calls for violence. That's how our First Amendment works. You either stick to it, or you're going to be labeled a publisher, and you're going to be sued into oblivion, to where you can't even function anymore. Okay, so this argument anymore that just they're private entities and they can decide who's on there, to me just doesn't work anymore, because they have a monopoly on the country's conversation at this point. Okay, and when political viewpoints have a monopoly, which Silicon Valley runs social media, and they are almost 100%, if not 100% liberal, and they are funded by Democrats, and they in turn fund Democratic campaigns. Okay, this is a monopoly that is owned by political entities. It's a propaganda arm. That's what it is at this point. So it either needs to be broken up by the government, or they need to actually stick to what they're saying, that they are not biased and that anybody should be allowed to speak how they wish, as long as as they are not directly instigating violence or calling for violence or directly harassing somebody directly. Otherwise, they can become publishers and reap the whirlwind as far as that's concerned, because they'll be sued into oblivion, because there's been so much published on there. I mean, they know that would be the end of them. Okay, but this is not good, and it's moving rapidly in a very not good path. I don't know how else to put it, but I mean, this is rapidly going to get worse. I mean, they're taking out the most influential people right before the 2020 election. I mean, Alex Jones, Paul Joseph Watson, these guys were huge Trump supporters. And both InfoWars and Paul Joseph Watson, who works for InfoWars, have enormous followings and did have enormous followings on social media. Milo Yiannopoulos, for all the huzzah over how his career has been depleted and nosedived into the dirt, he still has millions of fans and millions of people. When he writes a book, people buy the book. When his YouTube account still has just south of 1 million subscribers. The guy still has a huge following, and he's popular. And when he goes to a college to speak, people go. They show up. Uh, so it's and I don't like hearing this stupid argument from liberals that, oh yeah, well, it's not only conservatives being banned because Louis Farrakhan got banned. Who cares? We've been saying that Louis Farrakhan should be banned by if social media is going to be consistent, then they should have banned Louis Farrakhan forever ago. Okay, so that means absolutely nothing. What about Peter Fonda, who said that Don Jr.'s child should be thrown in a cage full of pedophiles? The list goes on and on as far as that's concerned. Not even to mention the outrageous things, anti-Semitic and otherwise, that Ilhan Omar has posted on Twitter. Okay, and so you ban Louis Farrakhan as this kind of token of how we're not just playing against the conservatives. You've got to be joking, okay? Louis Farrakhan is not your typical liberal. If you want to show that you're balanced and you apply your terms of service equally, then there's people like Ilhan Omar that should be getting strikes against them. Peter Fonda should have strikes against him and be removed, even just temporarily. Even just a token gesture of taking Peter Fonda off of Twitter for 3 weeks would assuage a lot of the uproar. But no, you don't even see that. So all this needs to change. This going through the world like this is not going to get any of us anywhere. It's only going to further divide the country. We're listening. It's you that's not. I listen to what the liberals have to say, okay? I've spent time listening to CNN, more time than I care to admit. MSNBC, the same goes for them. I've listened to Rachel Maddow. I've listened to all of them. As far as my own faith goes, I spend an enormous amount of time listening to atheists like Hitchens or Dawkins or Sam Harris or Peter Atkins or Peter Milliken. I've listened to them all speak. I've read their writings, okay? I like actually challenging what I believe. I like that dialogue. I like that debate. But if you don't have that, you can never really know if what you believe is true, if you have not heard the best arguments on both sides. And that's how I know that the liberal side is a tremendously weak side. They must be, if they are so afraid of open debate. They are living in fear. It is ironic. They are the ones that are the hateful ones. Fear and hate are simultaneous, okay? They breed and feed off of each other. One instigates the other. One drives the other one forward. And so where you see a tremendous amount of fear being used to silence, hate is not far behind that. And that's a very sad irony, considering the progressives loving to label all conservatives hateful. This will not end, and it is not over anytime soon. Social media accounts like Gab, and I think there's one called Quizpo or something like that, are only going to crop up in a more abundance now. Minds.com, some others. The Twitter's heyday is numbered. Facebook's already on the decline. This is going to come to a clash very soon, and it's a shame that it had to happen like this. It's a shame that so many of you liberal morons decide to live life with this on. You have my sympathy.